Hello, everyone. My name is Mair Berkshire, and today I'm going to try to make three kinds of soup. And I call the soup bright soup because recently I was influenced by my son and his girlfriend to go a little bit more raw and fresh. And I really didn't want to eat a lot of raw food, but I found a way to make a lot of soups without really boiling all the minerals out of everything. So soup is one of my favorite things because of the history of soup. And so I'm gonna make French onion soup, cream of broccoli soup, and I'm going to make minestrone if I can get it all done in 45 minutes. How long do I have? 45 minutes? Okay, all right. And I have an assistant here, Michael. It's pretty early here for us. So we're in LA, it's not that early, but okay, so we're gonna get started. And the first thing I've done, I just have to figure out how you're gonna be able to see what I'm doing. Is there a way to turn the Zoom around?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I mean, how do the other teachers do it? Do they just flip it?
That I don't know.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Can you angle your computer? Yeah, that's good. That's getting there.
Michael, can you hold this for me? Okay, hold on. Okay, come over here by the vegetables. And then I don't know if they can see them.
Oh, perfect. Beautiful.
Okay, so the first thing I do is I get all my vegetables ready. I normally don't make three kinds of soup at once, but I got a little ambitious. But normally what I do is when I'm making bright soup, so less cooked vegetables, I divide things up. So for the French onion soup, I'm going to saute the onions first, but then I also save onions, the fresh onions, for my method of throwing them all in at the last minute. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, let's see, which soup shall I do first? Let's go with the French onion soup. We'll do that one first. So really all I do with the French onion soup is get the onions ready, because I'm making a very small amount. Can you guys see that? Can you see that? Oh, this is going to be hard because you can't see where you're angling.
No, it was very good. No, we saw it very well.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, so first thing I do is get the onions ready. Okay, and so now the onions are ready. Stay right there. I'm going to just grab the water. This is drinkable water here, right?
Yes.
The one that's open?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I'm going to add about 8 cups of water to the French onion soup. And I'm going to turn it up and bring it to a boil. It's very, very easy to make. Now, one of the things I like to do is when I'm making miso, see if you can see my little jar. Can you see that jar? I like to put things in a little tiny jar. Here, turn it over, like just look directly at me. Okay, so I put the miso in a little jar. I do it ahead of time, about an hour ahead of time. So when I'm ready to put the miso into the soup, I just have to shake it up, okay? So now we're gonna bring the French onion soup to a boil. And then I'm gonna let that boil, and then now I'm gonna get now show them this pot. These are the savory vegetables that I'm doing for the minestrone soup. And they got a little bit burned. But so that's about all the cooking I really do for that particular soup. So stay right there.
Okay.
Okay, hold on one second. Just shoving the vegetables in now.
Beautiful prep work. Very pretty.
My assistant, Michael.
Thank you.
Alice's Restaurant in Malibu. How many years? 11?
Yeah,
Yeah.
11.
Okay, so now come back over here. Let's see, can you guys see that pot right there? Let's see. It's hard for you to tell what you're aiming at.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so now I get the seitan ready with the onions and celery. So my idea, the original soup was made and how soup started was they actually dug a hole even before they actually had clay vessels. That's good right there. Before they actually had clay vessels, they would dig a hole and throw, like parts of animals in it, and then hot rocks and then water. And that was the original soup. And that was about 20,000 years ago. And I think it's just stay right there. I think it's interesting that we always think that soup has to be boiled like crazy, and it really doesn't have to be boiled that much. Now, in my recipe, my website is Vegan Cooking Online, and under Bright Soups, you'll see all the recipes and all the instructions. So you don't have to take notes. Now, one thing I didn't put on the website is wakame. I forgot to put it on for the minestrone. And I like to use these wakame flakes because it comes pre-chopped and they're very, very fine. So you can see and so here, I'm just going to add a little for the umami flavor. Okay. So now these soups are getting ready. The French onion's boiling. This minestrone is ready. Now, for the sake of time and taste, normally I would make the seitan. No, you're good. You're good. Really well done. But because of time, I want to make sure that I have enough time to show you all three soups. So I'm going to make the seitan less well done. And you can also use tofu if you want. And then again, I add about 8 cups of water. Okay, so that's going to just cook there. Okay, now, so the French onion, you can just aim at the pots. Go ahead and aim at the pots.
Sure.
Now, since I'm trying not to boil too much, I wanted to see if, no, I wanted to see if they can see the pot. Yeah, that's perfect. You can see it. Yeah, just like that. Thank you. Okay, here's the French onion. So the idea with the French onion, a long time ago when I used to work at the East West Center, we would cook French onion soup so much. Do you remember that with Jim Felber? We would cook it so much that yes, the broth came out like something, from an herb god. It was so delicious, but you don't need to cook it that much to have a really umami rich taste for the soup. So what we're going to do is I throw in just a little parsley as I'm going along, just for flavor. And then as soon as this comes to a nice boil, I'm going to put this on so it boils quicker. Okay. So now we're going to let's go back to the minestrone soup. Okay. So now normally I would have sauteed these bell peppers, but I'm not going to do that because I'm just going to put it in there so they don't cook that much. And then I'm going to save this for the end. Okay, hold on 1 second. Go ahead and just show them everything. I'll be right back. I have to grab that thing.
So Mike, tell us about yourself and your cutting skills.
Well, I worked at Alice's Restaurant in Malibu from 1972 to 1980. Yeah, 1980. And I was a line cook. And then for a little while, I was a sous chef there. And the chef that trained us was classically trained. He worked at Maxime's in Paris for a time. And he wanted to train all of us as much as possible so we could all be chefs someday. And we did a lot of prep, a lot of cutting. We did all our own chopped parsley for the line every night. We crushed peppercorns with a saute pan in classic style. And as much as possible, we did things the old-fashioned way. And so I learned. It became a habit.
And then tell them how you've been my assistant for all this.
And I've been Mary's assistant for all these years, since
40.
Do you have-
Say
yeah,
40.
40.
Do you have a picture of the knife you use, or knives? If you use more than one?
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the ones we used today.
That's the one. That's Mary's special knife.
Ah, yes.
I don't touch it.
Yes, you can. You can touch it. And then show them that one. Is that the one you used last night?
I used it for part
Here, let me see.
for cutting start the cabbage. You know, because you want to just have a nice, powerful sweep.
He's an amazing cutter. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
I don't know how I could have cooked all these years for people without his help.
So I have to thank Dennis Tyler and 10 years at Alice's for that.
Okay, now come back over here. I'm going to add the beans to the minestrone. And normally I would use soaked beans. These are cans, and I was going to use azuki beans, but I forgot to soak them. So yeah, oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah, perfect.
These are raw beans?
Well, normally they're raw and I soak them. Okay, I soaked the azuki beans I wanted to use. So you could use azuki beans in this recipe to make it more macrobiotic. Okay, so now let's go back over. Oh, just aim at the pot.
Mm-hmm.
Don't keep turning because they're seeing you full screen turn like that. Okay, now let's show them the French onion soup. Perfect, you're perfect right there. Okay, so now the French onion soup is, in my opinion, is almost done. In my opinion of bright soup, I'm going to turn it down and break the boil. I like to break the boil with a tiny bit of liquid. Okay, there you go. And now for the soup, all I'm going to do, now I put corn in French onion soup because I really love color. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a little carrot. And I'm going to put you don't have to move. I will find you. My dark miso. I'm going to whisk. And I'll be right back.
Well, what was the red liquid that you added at the beginning of it?
It was the soya.
Show you.
So miso and shoyu. Wow.
Well, not too much, just hardly any shoyu. I didn't put too much in it.
Did you hear her?
Yes.
Well, okay, I can't find the dill, but normally we stayed up really late prepping and I forgot to put the dill out. Okay, so normally I put some dill on the top, okay, and then I'm gonna just cover this and just let it simmer. I'm not going to cook it at all. And then at the end, I'm not gonna boil it. I'm not gonna reboil it. Okay, so that's the French onion soup. And then when it's finished, I'll show you what it looks like. Now we're gonna bring this. Oh, you're perfect. That's perfect. Minestrone. I just want to bring this to a boil with all the savory vegetables and the beans, okay, for the minestrone. All right, so stay there and let it.
Looks like we're looking at your hand or something. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, so now the next soup I'm going to work on. Okay, you're perfect. Don't move. Is the cream of broccoli soup. Okay, and this is another very easy soup to make. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do, hold on right there, is grab the broccoli stems because I like to use the soaked broccoli stems just to give a full body flavor. Hold on a second. Did you see the broccoli stems last night?
I haven't seen them this morning.
Okay. All right. So, normally I put just this, just stay right there. You're good. The stems of the broccoli into, I want to put some vegetable in there to boil. Okay. So it has a real full body flavor. And then I also boil the milk. This is a really, really easy soup to make. And the recipe for measurements is on my website. And so now I'm going to put into this rosemary powder. Don't move. I'll find you. Can you guys see the rosemary powder? Okay, that's going in the minestrone. So it has a real Italian type flavor. Okay, so now this is the cream of broccoli. I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then let's come back over here and see how the French onion soup is doing. It's looking really good. Stay right there. Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you to hold on 1 second. Now, see, our minestrone is boiling, so I'm going to turn it down. Hold on, I'll be back. So I'm going to have Michael chop these. Okay, can you chop these onions a little bit, and I'll show off your cutting skills?
How much, like what? In half?
Well, half those, because that's what we're going to put on top without boiling.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. Okay. Say hi. Can you see so facing?
Hello.
Can you see yourself in the little square? The bottom right.
Oh, there I am.
Can you guys still hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now can you see yourself in there? Let me see if I
Yes.
have you.
Yes.
I do? I have your hands?
No, not quite. Down.
Wait, hold on.
Okay, there's my shirt.
Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on 1 second. Okay. There you go.
All right. So what do you want? You want strips?
I want some strips.
Julianne?
A
Julianne,
little
let-
more, Mary. We don't see his hands.
okay, wait,
Keep
hold
going
on.
down just a little more, little more, little more.
There
Oh,
we-
okay.
Julianne and in half, because we're not gonna really cook this too much.
It's not the right cutting board.
Did you use different kinds of onions? than
I
the
used a yellow and I used a white.
The white are more mild.
Yeah, that, and also these are pretty big, so they're not as, spicy or yang. But lately here in California, we've been having a really hard time getting great onions. I don't know, for a long time, I don't know what it is. That's good. Yeah, not too. Okay, now, we'll switch again. That's pretty good right there.
Okay.
Okay, so you hold that. Now the French onion soup, come back over to the soup. We're gonna just add this onion to the soup. And then we're just gonna let that sit, okay? It's gonna cook. It's really off. I'm gonna let it low simmer for just a second or two without bringing it to a boil. And then, yeah, that's perfect. And then I'm going to shut it completely off, okay? Now we're dealing with the minestrone. And, okay, now this is what I'm gonna do is, this burner is better here. I'm gonna move the cream of broccoli here so I can bring this to a boil. And the minestrone is boiling. We can go back over to the minestrone. Okay, so now the minestrone, okay. One of the flavors I'm doing in the minestrone is, and you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna do a light miso, which I put in this little jar. And I like to shake it up so it gets really mixed up. And then turn this down to really low. And then yeah, perfect. Somehow you know right where to go. Just stay right where you are. Perfect. Okay, so the minestrone. So really, the minestrone. Okay. Now this is where some of the vegetables that I already boiled, okay? I'm just gonna drop in. I'm gonna leave it
Are
on a
the
low.
beans already cooked? The beans are
The beans
cooked
were already soaked. They were really soaked. And so they're already cooked. Okay. And so now the minestrone, I'm going to leave it just at a kind of like a low rumble. Can you guys see it? Okay. Dropping in the cabbage. A little bit of more celery. And I'm also adding some cauliflower to the minestrone. Do you see it? Can you guys see it? Can you guys hear me?
Yes and yes. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so now the minestrone is, you see how it's just gonna be on a low rumble like that? I'm not gonna bring it to a boil and I'm just gonna let it sit. So there we go. Now the last soup is, now I am gonna put a drop of shoyu in the minestrone, just for a tiny bit more flavor. So it's kind of like a white and dark, together. But you see how bright the vegetables are? That's my point is to have the vegetables very, very bright. Okay. Hold on 1 second. You're doing real good.
Thank you.
Okay. Uh-oh. It's got to boil over here. Okay, so come back over to the cream of broccoli. Okay. Come up, no, up. Yeah, they're perfect. See, can you guys see the cream of broccoli?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll move it to this burner over here. It boiled over, so I killed the flame. Okay, so there's the cream of broccoli. Now what I'm gonna do with the cream of broccoli is I've got my kuzu here. Wait, you still stay right there. So I got my kuzu ready ahead of time. Okay. Okay, there we go with the cream of broccoli. And that's just coming to a boil. I'm going to add a little bit more salt to the cream of broccoli. Now all we have to do with that is bring that to a boil. So now you can see, now the minestrone is not quite done, but come back over. Do you see how bright the vegetables are? That's what you want, are vegetables that look bright like that. You know, they're almost parboiled, like a boiled salad. So this is what the minestrone would look like. Wait, hold on. I'll find you. Okay, that's the finished minestrone. Can you see it?
Yes. Did you make the seitan?
No, I didn't, but it's packaged, but it's the pure Upton. I don't know. Where are you guys? One of you is in Israel and the other lady, where are you?
I'm in Israel.
Oh, you're both in Israel. Okay. We have an American friend that lives there. Okay, go ahead. Now all we're doing here is bringing the trick with this is to bring it to a boil. And add just a tiny bit of shoyu to this for flavor. Now this is coming to a boil. A little bit of parsley. I like to do the soup as you're going along. You know, like if I feel like it needs more of this or that, I just add it as I'm going. But I like to stick to a recipe too. But if I think, oh, parsley would be good in this, I add the parsley. Now with the kuzu I want to bring this to a full boil so it gets very, very creamy. Okay, and let's take a look. At our French onion soup. And especially in the warm weather, with the vegetables being nice and crunchy, everything's crunchy and bright. Okay, you see that? Okay. Now this cream of broccoli soup, I really like to, now this is where I don't like to boil that much, but with the cream of broccoli soup, I do boil it a lot. So the kudzu makes everything nice and thick. It's kind of like molten lava. See, now it's getting creamy. Bring that back to a boil. And this is a very soothing, warm soup, good for the digestion, and it's very, very clean and pure. There's hardly anything in it, and it's comforting soup. Let me bring this to a boil one more time. Here it goes. I'm going to let it almost boil over. Then I'm going to turn it. So you really have to watch it and just make sure. Okay, now I think it's boiled enough. I'm going to pretty much shut it off, let the boil stop. I'm going to add the broccoli flowerets that I have. And then I like to throw on the top some dandelion greens, okay? And basically that's it. That's the cream of broccoli soup, because after it sits for 10 minutes, I'll have it sit for 10 minutes. It will be ready to serve because it'll get thick. You're good. It'll get thick and it'll be ready to serve. And and it's not even like you're eating raw vegetables because they're cooking in the almost boiled liquid. Okay, so that's the 3 soups. Do you have any questions? Any questions?
Oh, that was great. That was great. I wonder if I could ask your cameraman about sharpening knives,
Oh, sure.
how and when.
You
Well,
want to show them what you use?
Anytime your hand starts to work harder than it should.
They see it?
Can you see me?
Yes.
Look in the bottom right.
Okay, there, here. This way. Anytime your hand starts to work harder than it should, because cutting should be easy. If the knife is sharp enough, it'll just do most of the work.
Move this way a little. There.
So it depends. Like there's no time. It's just a matter of use. Because if you do a lot of cutting, of course, it's going to wear out faster.
Do you want to show them what you use?
Yeah, I use a whetstone.
Mhm.
Put a little bit of oil on it, and
Oil.
then just blade
Put oil on yours, do you?
on the stone.
It depends on the stone.
Which
little
side?
Olive oil.
Which
Either
side?
either side. Both sides are. This is a little rougher. The dark side is a little rougher. I usually use this side.
I thought you. Here.
It depends on the stone.
Pardon?
I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting to mute myself. I was questioning whether it was oil or water that you put on the stone.
Oil. Usually olive oil or sesame oil. And you use the old.
Want to show them how you do it?
I'm not-
Wake up.
You should. If you want to know how to sharpen a knife, watch Gordon Ramsay. He knows how to do it.
Go ahead and show them how you. What are you looking for?
Well, I don't need oil because I'm not going to sharpen it, but just
Wait, make sure they can.
you should have a 27-degree angle.
Wait, are you in the?
I'm in the picture, but the knife isn't.
Can you see them now?
Yes.
You use a 27 degree angle is the ideal. And just slide it a little
You
bit.
push away
right?
from you.
You push away, right? And then just slide it a few times and check it every so often. And then take a piece of paper and try to cut it. And when it cuts the paper without any snags or anything, it's ready to go. But as I said, Gordon Ramsay is an expert at
He
sharpening
has a
knives
YouTube video thing.
very
doesn't he?
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does, about sharpening. And he uses a stick, which I don't use. It's easier to get a good edge with a whetstone.
Do you have to clean the stone afterwards from the oil?
No, just wipe it off if you want,
Mhm.
but you don't have to because the oil soaks into it. And over
This
time,
one
it
was, Go ahead.
it's like a cast iron pot. It just absorbs the oil and gets better. But I try to keep the knives really sharp because I do a lot of cutting. When Mary's cooking a lot, I do a lot of cutting. And I don't want to wear my hand out. I've been doing this a long time, so, make the knife work.
How many
Also-
knives do you have?
Well, now most of my good knives I don't have with me right here. And I use a serrated knife to cut onions now. I used to not do that, but I use a serrated knife like this.
Oh, do you for onions?
Mhm.
Why did you change?
Because the serrated edge holds better. The onions get slippery
Oh,
and it can be dangerous. But the serrated edge holds everything solid. And then once I get the onions like this, I slice them with the serrated knife. Then I use a regular French knife, or I don't know what this is, a Japanese knife of some kind.
it's a sushi knife.
Oh, it's a sushi knife.
Yeah.
Okay. I use that then to dice the rest of the slice.
Okay, so here is the. Can you aim at this bowl, Michael? You're really good at it. Okay, that's the finished cream of broccoli soup. And you see how the broccoli is bright and then it's real crunchy. Has a lot of minerals left in it. Okay, so those are our 3 soups.
Bravo.
Did you say you use the stems of the broccoli at some point? Because
I did. I cut them last night and soaked them, but Michael loves to use the stems of the broccoli for everything. He slices them like little circles. So what I was going to do was I soaked them, then I was going to mash them in a sriracha and then bring that to boil in the water, and that gives it a lot of extra flavor.
A lot of work.
It's not really. I mean, because once you soak it, it's pretty soft. And then like you bring that to a vigorous boil. So that's where you get your vigorousness from the seaweed, and you put it all together. Then you throw the vegetables in at the end so they don't get too mushy and all the minerals aren't gone. But it has a really good flavor, and we use it a lot in stir fry. So it's really good in stir fry as well.
It has a lot of the plant power in it. That's why I like to use the stems, because they have a lot of the yang power or yang
Yeah.
power.
Depending on where you're in the
Do
world.
you- Do you peel the broccoli stalks?
No, we don't.
I don't.
No. Yeah. Well, I've never made them. I always use the ones you give me.
I
but-
often cut them julienne down the middle and then cut them again and again, so they wind up being like chunks rather than circles.
Yeah.
So I cut them pretty small, and they cook a lot with that size.
And sometimes we've made almost whole vegetable dishes out of just that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Without the flowers, because Michael always saves it, so, and it's really got a lot of energy in it. It's kind of like a root vegetable.
Yeah.
I assume that you use the soaking water in the soup.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
we soak the water. I didn't do that today because I can't find it in my refrigerator. I did it really late last night. I soaked it. But yes, I would have poured it right into the pot, and then I would mash it with a sriracha a little bit. So it's kind of like a broccoli mash
To start.
to start the soup. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are there
So
other vegetables you use that way?
you mean which way?
I never heard of soaking broccoli.
Oh. Well, I just soak the stems. Okay. Not the
Flowers.
not the flowers, right? I just soak the stems. And so I kind of I've really gotten into this here. Hold this 1 second. I'm going to show them different powders for things. Okay, like I really love this rosemary powder. And so you can make a burdock powder. You can turn anything into a powder in a dehydrator. And so I have never done it with the broccoli, but it's the same kind of concept, you know, soaking it and then mashing it and then using it kind of as a soup stock, you know. So and I've never really done that in a stir fry, because in the stir fry we just stir fry them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Leave them whole.
yeah, so there's a lot of different, I'm just kind of opening my mind up, trying to be influenced by a lot. In LA we have a lot of younger vegans, but they eat a lot of stuff that's probably not that great for you, but they have a lot of ideas, you know. The concept of raw food is because of my macrobiotic background. I don't really want to eat raw food, but the idea of just throwing everything in and just letting it, even if you took the soup, the ideal thing would be to take the soup and put it in the sun and just let it sit there. It would still cook, but you wouldn't lose everything you lose from 188 degrees of boiling. So that's the whole idea behind the bright soup. And these powders just add a lot of extra flavor that you don't get when you're not boiling the heck out of soup.
We have a finger on the camera again. How do you make that? There it is. How do you make that powder of the rosemary?
This is you take the rosemary and you dehydrate it for about 40 hours. And you can do it in the sun, but my son's girlfriend, she has a really nice dehydrator. And then you just take it, and she would put things more like in a blender or a magic bullet, but you can take it and just put it in a sriracha. You don't have to use something electric. And if you smell it, it's powerful. I just open this lid and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so you can smell it all through the house. You know, this is pretty old. This is probably 2 months old. So yeah. So
All right.
okay, well, thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Yeah.
If it's of any use to you, I had learned by keeping the top off the pot, that's what keeps the colors vibrant. And I saw that you did that with all your soups, pretty much.
Yeah. That I do keep the top off as much as I can, unless I'm trying to get like the broccoli one to boil. But yeah, I definitely keep the top off. Yeah. And you can just tell by how it looks. If it's got a brilliant, beautiful color with cabbage, broccoli, and carrots, even, you don't really have to cook the heck out of root vegetables. You know, I use things like burdock for the stock, seaweed for the stock, and then I boil it like crazy to get that powerful broth. But then, yes, you just leave the lid off and just throw it all together, and it does its magic together. And I don't like to stir things very much. And I took some classes with Aveline Kushi probably 35 years ago.
Yeah.
But she never stirred things. She would always say, let it come from the bottom of the boil and let the vegetables do, or all the food. I mean, even rice, she didn't really stir. And she would just let it cook. And, you know, the first time I saw her make rice, I didn't know anything about cooking rice. And she said, oh, the bottom rice this is bottom rice and it's crispy. It's supposed to be that way. And I never knew if that was really true, you know, if she just, and then later I'd hear people at the Kushi Institute say, oh, this is bottom rice. And I always thought, I wonder if it's just because Adeline burns it. You know? But she's so much fun to watch her cook. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I never stir, and Michael's got that French background, and so he loves to stir. So even when he makes oatmeal, lately we've been making oatmeal and amaranth together, and I always say, don't stir it. If it's doing something it shouldn't do, just turn the flame down, you know? Yeah, she was so much fun to watch cook. She was so happy, and she could do 50 things at once and make it look like it was nothing, you know? And she was great.
Well, thank you very much for this cooking class. You prepared very well, and I really appreciate your bringing your ideas to us. So
Okay,
thank you.
all right. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Thank you.